Buried high on Mount Ararat, explorers have uncovered something that defies every explanation. Massive beams hidden in ice and stone, perfectly aligned, too precise to be nature's work. At first glance, it looked like shattered wood fused into the mountain. But step closer, and the pattern is undeniable. This isn't debris. It's a vessel so vast, so ancient, that the deeper they dug, the more impossible the discovery became. And what they found inside will shake history itself. Make sure to like and subscribe, because what you're about to see changes everything. The first beams measured longer than a city bus, cut from trees that had never grown in this region. Their fibers were preserved, hardened, and layered with a strange resin that resisted decay for thousands of years. Tests revealed carbon dating that placed the timber far beyond the age of any known ancient ship. What stunned researchers most was its location, over 13,000 feet above sea level, embedded in volcanic stone. No flood could have carried it there. No army could have built it at that height. It had to be placed, deliberately, purposefully, exactly where it now rests. As they broke through a collapsed section of the structure, they found more than wood. A hollow cavity stretched into darkness, its entrance sealed with slabs of stone carved by human hands. Inside, scattered remnants lay coated in dust and ash, fragments of woven reeds, hardened clay jars, and, most astonishing, animal remains unlike anything native to Turkey, bones from creatures that belonged to faraway continents, a jawbone resembling that of an African antelope, feathers with pigmentation, linked to species found only in Asia. It was as if the vessel had carried the world itself, locked away on this mountain for an eternity. Further scans revealed chambers hidden within the structure. Not one or two, but a labyrinth of compartments stretching deeper into the rock. Each chamber seemed measured with mathematical precision, built not randomly, but according to a design that matched ancient shipbuilding principles described in texts thousands of years old. When ground-penetrating radar was run across the site, it exposed anomalies too symmetrical to be natural. Rectangular voids, still sealed, waiting to be opened. And in the middle of these readings, one chamber stood out, larger than the rest, shielded by dense layers of material, as if it had been protected intentionally. When they pried into the smaller compartments, the discoveries only escalated. Residues clung to the walls, tested and found to contain traces of bitumen, the same waterproofing agent described in ancient accounts of a great flood. Embedded in the floor were impressions, indentations shaped like hooves and claws, pressed deep into the wooden planks, fossilized by time. It wasn't just myth etched in scripture. These were physical marks, evidence of creatures once locked inside the hull, evidence that the story may not have been allegory at all, but a memory carved into the bones of history. Deeper excavation pushed them into areas no human had entered for millennia. Here, the air grew stale, thick with the weight of untouched centuries. The walls were reinforced with strange joinery, not the crude handiwork of primitive tools, but interlocking designs that suggested advanced engineering. The grain of the wood shimmered unnaturally, almost metallic in its preservation. And then, etched faintly into one beam, they found markings, not random scratches, symbols, geometric shapes, and intersecting lines that matched no known language but seemed intentional, like the code of a forgotten civilization, left as a warning or a record. And then came the most unsettling revelation of all. Nestled in one chamber, behind layers of hardened mud, were sealed containers unlike anything expected. Cylindrical, lined with copper and a strange mineral crust. When researchers carefully opened one, what spilled out was not animal remains, not food storage, but fragments of scrolls, parchments so fragile they disintegrated upon touch. High-resolution scans caught fleeting glimpses of inscriptions before they vanished. Characters resembling ancient Semitic writing, mentioning survivors, covenant, and renewal. Words that hinted not at myth, but testimony. Just as the team prepared to document these findings, instruments picked up another anomaly buried deeper still. A void, larger than any other, shielded by layers of volcanic rock, inaccessible without risking collapse. The reading suggested not wood, not stone, but a metallic presence sealed inside. Something placed deliberately within the ark and hidden away for reasons no one has yet explained. Almost instantly, the camp's instruments spiked with unexplainable fluctuations, magnetic fields twisting as though whatever lay inside was still active, still alive with energy. Geologists confirmed the surrounding stone had been fused by intense heat, as if the chamber had been deliberately sealed with fire. The implication was staggering. Someone hadn't simply abandoned this vessel to the mountain. They had entombed it, hiding whatever rested within. When the team drilled a micro-bore to capture air samples, the readings were impossible. Traces of gases, long extinct in Earth's current atmosphere, seeped out, elements thought to vanish after the planet's earliest ages. It was like opening a time capsule from before recorded history. What stunned them further were minute biological spores carried in the release, microscopic life dormant for thousands of years, still intact, still viable. It suggested the Ark wasn't just a vessel of survival, but a vault of preservation, sealing away not only creatures, but the building blocks of creation itself. As thermal imaging swept across the deepest void, a chilling outline emerged. The anomaly was not a random mass, but a geometric structure, a rectangular chest, its proportions eerily close to dimensions recorded in other ancient traditions. Some whispered it resembled relics described across multiple cultures, a vessel of divine covenant, a container of forbidden knowledge. The idea that something sacred or dangerous lay hidden within the Ark spread like fire through the camp. And with every new scan, the shape seemed less like an accident, more like design. Tensions escalated when a secondary chamber collapsed under excavation, exposing artifacts no one expected. Rows of stone tools, sharpened beyond what Stone Age technology should allow, carved with precision, closer to modern engineering. Among them were copper fittings corroded by time, their design resembling rivets and fastenings found in ancient Mesopotamian ruins. These fragments suggested a shocking connection, that the builders of the Ark possessed skills far surpassing the world they lived in, bridging a gap between myth and metallurgy that archaeologists had never been willing to cross. Then came the discovery that sent shockwaves beyond the mountain. Buried in hardened resin, a perfectly sealed container was lifted from the wreckage. Inside, wrapped in layers of fiber that resisted decay, lay a cluster of seeds. Thousands of them, each one preserved as if planted yesterday. Genetic analysis revealed traits no longer found in modern species. Ancestral strains of wheat, barley, and legumes, purer than anything cultivated today. The Ark wasn't just saving lives, it was saving the future of food itself. A genetic library sealed away before the floodwaters receded. As researchers pushed deeper, the mountain itself began to resist. Strange vibrations shook through the excavation site, instruments glitching with electromagnetic surges no one could trace. Compass needles spun without control, radios cut to static. Some swore they heard low frequencies humming through the beams of the vessel as though the Ark itself was emitting a pulse. And within that distortion, sensors captured fleeting patterns, signals resembling coded sequences, repeated in rhythm, as though the wood and metal structure was not entirely dead, but transmitting. The anomalies only intensified when fragments of the strange copper-lined cylinders were tested. Metallurgical scans showed they were not pure copper at all, but alloyed with a mineral rare even today, molybdenum, used in high-strength steel and nuclear reactors. The realization was almost unbearable. The builders of the Ark were not primitive shepherds shaping crude planks, but engineers wielding materials centuries, even millennia, ahead of their time. These containers were not food jars. They were conduits, perhaps batteries, or devices meant to harness forces no one could yet explain. One chamber revealed carvings burned into the wooden walls. The symbols were unlike the markings found earlier. These glowed faintly under ultraviolet light, invisible to the naked eye. They resembled star maps, alignments of constellations that no longer match the skies above. Calculations traced them back to an ancient epoch, a window in time when Earth's tilt and heavens aligned differently. Whoever carved them was recording not the world they lived in, but the sky as it appeared long before recorded astronomy. The Ark was more than transport. It was a cosmic archive, coded to the stars themselves. But the most staggering revelation came as drones probed an untouched corridor wedged between collapsed beams. The feed flickered, then sharpened, revealing a row of containers stacked against the wall, each identical, sealed with pitch, untouched since the vessel's last voyage. What shocked the team was not their survival, but their markings. Each was etched with identical symbols, spirals, interlocking circles, and one recurring motif. Two intersecting lines, perfectly crossing at a point of balance. This was not random. It was the signature of intent, a universal seal suggesting that what lay inside these vessels had been marked for preservation, not destruction. The drone feed cut to black moments later, as if some unseen interference severed the signal. When the team retrieved it, the data log showed spikes of radiation, surges that made no sense at that altitude or depth. Yet the last still frame captured before the collapse showed something undeniable. A reflection, metallic and smooth, deep inside the final container. Not wood, not stone, not bone, something forged, something made, something the world was never meant to see again. The interference didn't stop with the drone. Moments later, the ground itself trembled, beams groaned, and with a shriek of tearing timber, part of the chamber gave way. Dust choked the air, floodlights cut across splintered stone, and there, glinting through the collapse, was a fragment of the object itself. Not bronze, not iron. Its surface shimmered with a bluish sheen, crystalline and metallic at once. Touching it was forbidden, but even proximity triggered their instruments into chaos. Geiger counters screamed with radiation spikes, while magnetometers registered surges strong enough to scramble nearby hard drives. Whatever this artifact was, it radiated power, and it had been sealed inside deliberately, shielded from the world for a reason. Samples taken from the air around it revealed something even stranger. Microparticles suspended in the dust carried isotopes not found anywhere in modern geology, rare, unstable elements with decay chains impossible to replicate naturally. It was as though the object itself was bleeding fragments of another age, remnants of an environment long erased from Earth. Researchers whispered theories in hushed voices. Was this a relic forged before the flood, in a world with a different sky? A different air? A different order of creation? If so, the Ark had not only preserved life, but imprisoned a technology from a lost epoch. The collapse unearthed another chilling clue: skeletal remains scattered just meters from the container. At first, assumed to be animal, closer study revealed elongated skulls, ribs shaped in ways inconsistent with any known human anatomy. DNA analysis, rushed on site, revealed strands partially human, partially unknown, fragments that didn't match any existing database. These were not livestock. These were passengers, locked within the Ark, and their presence hinted at something unrecorded. Beings who traveled alongside Noah's family, preserved, perhaps imprisoned, then entombed with the vessel itself. Exploration deeper into the mountain revealed tunnels branching outward from the Ark, carved not by nature but by design. Smooth walls bore scorched marks as though carved by heat rather than chisel. Instruments confirmed traces of obsidian fused into the walls, suggesting temperatures beyond primitive fire-making. These corridors connected to sealed stone vaults, far older than the collapse above them. Within one vault, they uncovered fragments of tablets etched with pictograms not belonging to Mesopotamia, not Sumerian, not known at all. The scenes showed the Ark not adrift on water, but lifted, raised above waves by beams of light pouring from its base, as though flight itself had been rendered in ancient code. Amid this labyrinth, the team uncovered a chamber unlike the rest. Its walls pulsed faintly when illuminated. The wood and stone, lined with mineral veins that seemed almost engineered to conduct energy. Embedded in the central beam was a disk of polished stone, inscribed with concentric rings like a map of planetary orbits. When high-frequency scans pulsed through it, the rings resonated, vibrating faintly, producing tones outside the human range. The Ark wasn't just a structure, it was resonant, tuned, designed to echo the harmonics of the Earth itself. Some began to wonder if this was not merely a ship, but a machine, its true function never meant to be understood. As night fell on the mountain, something else stirred. Thermal cameras stationed around the site captured heat signatures moving within sealed chambers, flickers of warmth in spaces untouched for thousands of years. At first dismissed as equipment malfunction, the readings held steady, forming outlines, shapes too large to be rodents, too structured to be random. The Ark, buried and sealed, appeared to house movement. Some of the team demanded the operation cease immediately. Others argued they were on the edge of uncovering proof that myth was not myth at all, but a reality the modern world was not prepared to face. While the debate raged, a discovery in the genetic samples of the seeds shifted everything again. Among the ancient strains, researchers detected anomalies, gene sequences deliberately spliced, edited, altered, far beyond natural evolution. Someone had engineered these crops, refining them for survival, thousands of years before the advent of modern science. And hidden within their code, encrypted in repeating sequences, were patterns resembling binary, sequences of data embedded in living matter. The Ark had not only carried food, it had carried knowledge, information encoded into DNA, waiting to be unlocked. The greatest shock, however, came when the metallic object was examined again. Ground-penetrating radar focused on its core revealed not a solid mass, but a hollow center. Inside the artifact was a cavity, perfectly spherical, holding a smaller object that reflected no signal, no wavelength, as though it absorbed all attempts to measure it. To scientists, it resembled a singularity, a pocket of absence, an engineered void. To others, it was something far more dangerous, a forbidden relic sealed within a container, then locked inside the ark, then buried beneath a mountain, as if layer upon layer of history had been conspiring to keep it hidden forever. Then came the pulse. At first, a faint tremor in the readings, then a steady rhythm, rising and falling like the cadence of a heart. The realization spread in silence. Something inside the ark was alive. Moments later, that pulse surged outward, rattling tools, shaking the rigs, resonating in the bones of everyone present. Instruments captured the frequency with chilling precision, 7.83 Hertz, the exact natural resonance of the Earth itself. The artifact was not just alive, it was synchronized with the planet. And then, without warning, every monitor died. Darkness swept the camp, silence swallowing the mountain, broken only by the sound of something shifting deep within the ark. When the emergency lights flickered back on, the artifact had changed. Its crystalline surface shimmered with patterns that moved like water, waves of light bending across its metallic skin. Symbols appeared, those same intersecting circles etched into containers elsewhere, this time alive, glowing, moving in synchronization with the pulse. It was not a relic of metal and stone, it was communicating. High-speed cameras captured the flickering sequences, revealing coded language, mathematical constructs, far beyond anything carved on the vessel's walls. This was not memory preserved in wood and pitch. It was intelligence, awakening. The skeletal remains scattered near the chamber offered another layer of horror. DNA sequencing, rerun under tighter conditions, revealed fragments that linked to ancient hominin species long extinct, Neanderthal, Denisovan, even strains never catalogued by science. The implication was devastating. The Ark had carried not only animals and crops, but the genetics of humanity itself, variants of people erased by time, sealed into a vessel meant to repopulate or rewrite the earth. And some of those remains bore traces of copper alloy embedded in bone, as though they had been altered, fused with the same materials found in the cylinders. These were not passengers, they were experiments. Elsewhere in the wreckage, hidden beneath collapsed beams, another chamber was opened, smaller but untouched. Inside lay rows of clay tablets stacked neatly, their surfaces glazed by fire. Infrared scans revealed inscriptions invisible to the eye, written in cuneiform-like strokes, but interlaced with geometrical diagrams. They spoke not of a single flood, but cycles of catastrophe, worlds reset by fire, ice, and water, each followed by the construction of vessels. Not one ark, but many. The text implied this mountain held only one chapter in a story that had repeated across ages, each time burying its secrets deeper, each time hiding more than it revealed. The team pressed into the chamber with the glowing artifact, setting up lead shielding and robotic arms to approach it. But as the machinery extended toward the surface, the resonance spiked. The mountain trembled, fissures opening in the stone around them. And then came the most chilling event of all. The pulse shifted. From a steady beat, it changed to a sequence, short, long, repeating. A code. The artifact wasn't just resonating with the earth. It was broadcasting, sending out a signal through stone, through air, perhaps even through time itself. The realization struck too late. They hadn't simply uncovered the Ark, they had activated it. Seismic sensors across Turkey began registering microquakes, all centered on Ararat. Instruments showed anomalies in the ionosphere, strange disturbances, as though the sky itself was vibrating. Satellite feeds went dark over the region, replaced by static bursts that mirrored the pulse from below. And when those bursts were slowed down, Frame by frame, hidden images flickered within the noise. Figures of animals, maps of continents, diagrams of stars. A library, hidden in transmission, unlocked only when the Ark stirred awake. Yet some frames showed something else. Outlines of colossal shapes striding through water, eyes glowing like fire. Amid the chaos, one final discovery pushed the team beyond the edge of fear. Inside a sealed compartment adjoining the artifact chamber, they found a preserved bundle, wrapped in ancient linen, untouched by decay. Within it lay a tablet unlike the rest, black stone, polished to a mirror, inscribed with a single line of text that appeared in multiple languages, layered one over another. The oldest script, barely legible, translated to only 3 words, "Not the first." The layers above it repeated the same phrase, again and again, in tongues spanning millennia. Whoever sealed the Ark, whoever buried it in the mountain, had left behind a warning carved into eternity. The pulse grew unbearable, lights flickered violently, and then darkness swept the chamber. For a single moment, everyone present swore they felt it. Not sound, not vibration, but a voice pressing against the inside of their minds, ancient, vast, and undeniable. And in that silence, with the mountain groaning above them, it became clear that what rested inside the Ark was never meant to be found. And it was no longer sleeping.